Celebrity Book Club.
Hello, Monty. I'm so glad you could join me in Aspen, Colorado at this gorgeous ski weekend.
Frank, I've been dying to meet you, man. You are one of the most respected CEOs in the country. I admire McDonald's as a company so much.
Monty, you are so beautiful. I love your style. As we say in Berlin, ich eine Straßenflackenschauter, which loosely translates to, that is a man I'd like to be in charge of my burrito, potentially. Of course, I've spent... yes.
As we say in Denver, he who hits the slopes first shows up to work first. I was actually watching you from my chalet. Oh, beautiful room. Thank you. I respect you as a man and a business partner or future business partner for setting me up in such a beautiful chalet.
Potential, yes. We haven't decided yet. As you know, the corporate ownership structure of McDonald's as it relates to Chipotle is sort of up in the air right now.
Absolutely. I would never be presumptuous, but sometimes I am, and I want to be presumptuous right now. You have an amazing body. I'm a married man and father of two beautiful children. But when I see another fellow businessman with great athletic ability, it inspires me.
Thank you so much. I grew up in Bavaria, of course, skiing down the mountains of chocolate. And in my adult time, my wife and I go to separate sex clubs in Berlin, Hamburg. She goes to Berlin, I go to Hamburg, obviously. Very, very funny. And it is quite a workout. So, yes, that is what you're seeing as part of my body. And, of course, not the McDonald's food, which I do not eat.
No, of course not. I would never. But again, I do respect how you work that company structure and how you handled the IPO.
So I propose that we get nude in the hot tub as a way to...
Absolutely. I'm
judge.
Extremely comfortable getting nude with fellow prospective business partners. Would you mind if I offered you a platonic business massage?
That sounds like a great way to get the board on board, if you know what I mean. So, sure.
Okay, yeah, just lay back. This is how I build trust, usually with my Chipotle team members.
We're starting with the front
Yes,
side.
a front massage.
Okay.
I do things a little bit differently, and you'll come to find that out.
I feel like you might be a great fit for Chipotle.
Oh, shucks. Thanks. I'm going to bring Chipotle places you never thought they could go.
I want to see the solar system.
Who's that knocking at the door? It's all your friends, you filthy whore. Your husband's gone and we've got books and a bottle of wine to kill. It's Hollywood. It's books. It's gossip. I'm shook. It's memoirs. It's martinis. It's Studio 54. It's Fellini. Celebrity Book Club. Come read it while it's hot. Celebrity Book Club. Tell your secrets, we won't talk. Celebrity Book Club. No boys are allowed. Celebrity Book Club. Say it loud and proud. Celebrity Book Club.
Buzz me in, I brought the Cuervo.
Hey, best friend! What the freak is up, my dude Steve?
My fucking dude, Lily. It is so good to see you.
It's so good to see you. Of course,
been hours.
Literally, it hasn't been 24 hours.
We had an amazing weekend together in Vermont, I'll say it.
We had an amazing weekend. Nature, fun, board games. It was pretty PG.
It was wildly PG.
Yes, there was
Except
alcohol.
A really reasonable amount, except for all the noise we made.
Oh, hell yeah. So, yeah, we'll give you a taste, even though this is kind of VIP lounge material. Do you subscribe?
Yeah, do you subscribe?
Boots?
Definitely subscribe. You'll get a lot of stories like the one you're about to hear.
Get this. We're talking all night long.
At a condo.
We're blasting Miranda Lambert's new album, Palomino. Stream it, download it, buy it on iTunes, get it on vinyl from mirandalambert.com. Red 55 Winery.
Thank you to my brother for installing Bose speakers as like a Christmas present to my parents at some point in the Vermont condo.
Shout out to Straight Brothers.
Yeah. So here's the thing. We're talking. The next morning we wake up and there is a long note taped to the door of the condo.
Like full notepad, written in bubble letters.
Yeah, written in a chick's handwriting. Let's just get that out there.
Major chick handwriting.
And it was like, we
had to close our window at 11:45.
But it was like
PM.
It was like, I love a good time.
Yes. Real intro. It was like, hey, look, I love a good time as much as the next person, okay?
Yeah.
But with the acoustics of the trees.
Yeah, it was like trying to do this whole sign thing where it was like the sound coming out of the windows and then bouncing off the trees and then back into their unit, which is like 2 units over.
Okay, she also was being so mean, capitalizing just random letters.
Yeah, well, that's very like the sign of a murderer or whatever. Where it's like random capitalization.
8 signs
it's very,
of a murderer.
It's very Zodiac. And then I was like, oh, is there a secret message hidden in here? But she was basically like, yes, like I love a good time, but you actually like, please do close the windows. And she was like, I wasn't even mad about the talking. I was mad that I couldn't sleep, which I would be mad about too.
Yeah, you would, because you're always complaining about your street and how you have no sleep. Here's the thing. It was also this. Vermont is supposed to be this Ben and Jerry's green state, but it's highly territorial.
Yes.
I think it's one of the tensest states in our great nation.
The thing is, okay, it's
because
not,
they want to be so chill.
But then it's not. But then the thing was, we made friends with them with a pool.
Yes.
And it was completely chill. And it's like, I actually don't think it's that
easy
tense.
to forgive.
I think it's very like, there's a little bit of a veneer of like a very certain kind of lifestyle where everyone's like, we are all here to appreciate nature and love great dairy products and go hiking and
hazy IPAs and rivers
and take in the view. And like, if at first someone seems like they're going to disturb that, like there's a lot of apprehension. But then the second you make contact, people will be very like, okay, we're not enemies.
That is true. Once you say you just like love hiking and like love Vermont, they're down. But it's
like
still,
Massachusetts is more like tense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you almost expect it to be. I'm saying kind of because Vermont is laying down like this awesome sauce lifestyle.
Once you're nice to your neighbor on the Cape, like it's not like everything's hunky dory. Like you're going to be at war with them for the next 30 years
over zoning and trees and parking lots and driveways and paving.
Yeah,
huge paving fights. I just feel like everyone is mad at me in Vermont.
But then it was all good.
It was all good, and I did make friends.
And no one was mad at you.
Yeah, and I literally told them to listen to the pod.
So ultimately, we're best friends, and like the point of Vermont is like, when it does seem tense, just push through and just like turn on the charm.
Yeah, absolutely, that's the lesson. Okay, so speaking of charm, we should get to the book.
It is very Denver and Vermont have a lot of connections.
And I've never been to Denver
with like the outdoor.
It's the hiking,
culture.
The brewery culture. It's the same thing. It's skiing, hiking, breweries. The 3.
Yeah.
Why are we talking about Denver?
Because this week we read
none other
than former co-CEO of Chipotle
Mexican Grill,
Monty Moran, and his memoir,
Love is Free.
Gauc is Extra.
How vulnerability and empower me. Do not laugh at me. Empower me.
Okay. Oh, yes. Thank you. No, you can do this.
How vulnerability, empowerment, and curiosity built an unstoppable team.
Boom. So Monty Moran, as we just said in that title, the former co-CEO, not the founder.
No, because that's Steve Ells.
Steve Ells, who
and we're going to talk about it.
Faggot! So Monty Moran is not a faggot. He's on the cover of the book. He's like
in the
being
most, like,
the hottest dad ever. Tightest like Heather Denver tee with
like a little pocket, blue Heather. So he's also crossing his arms, like.
But that's in a way to bulge the biceps. You know what I mean?
And
it's a power pose. It's a CEO power pose. It's very like.
And he's freckly in this way that he goes on a 20-mile.
Tan, yeah, he goes on a 20-mile at 2 a.m. and then he's at the office at 6 a.m. And obviously, he's going on vacation once a month to Sedona or Peru with his entire family.
Yes, and he's not unplugging. And then there's another photo of him on the back in a different long-sleeved Heather It's a long-sleeved Heather ash gray.
Can we talk? He's in a room full of safety deposit boxes?
But like, again, heathered
They're
Sorry,
Heathered
excuse me.
safety deposit
I just
boxes.
burped because in honor of Monty Moran
and our trip to Vermont, we're having
in honor of
IPAs.
Yeah, all Founders all day IPAs.
So this is Founders, and we're not reading a founder story, but we're reading someone who's adjacent to a founder.
And so Monty Moran
he's spiritually Denver,
but he lives in Denver.
Certainly,
that's where Chipotle is based.
Yeah, I mean,
HQ.
As we know, the LoDo moment. So, he was working at a law firm in Denver, pretty high up.
He was getting to partner.
Maybe he was partner. Who was making partner. He was and he'd really made a lot of waves with this law firm. And he was friends with Steve Ells, who was this fagotta who invented Chipotle.
And he goes, I met Steve when I was in law school, or I think they met in their law school, and he would go over to Steve Ells' house, and Steve Ells would just have these epic dinner parties where he would choose amazing wine. He was braising pork in the way that Monty didn't even know could happen. Little sauces, accoutrement. And when Monty's first talking about these epic dinners with wine, I didn't think Steve was gay.
I kind of didn't think that either, but now going back, it's obviously it does sound very gay. Okay, wait, so this is that part. He goes, One day a friend told me I had to meet his friend Steve Ells, who said he was a great chef. A week later, I attended a dinner party at Steve's small Boulder apartment. So we're 45-minute drive from Denver at this point.
We're in Boulder. Close your eyes, everyone. We're in Boulder.
Get to Boulder, okay. Steve was busy in the kitchen, and when he finally brought dinner to the table, the result was absolutely delicious. But this is so gay that he's
don't come in the kitchen.
Don't come in the kitchen. He's being so persnickety and busy in the kitchen, and
which is very you,
which is very me, and not entertaining his guests simultaneously. The pork was medium rare, perfectly seasoned, and plated with such care and respect that it seemed a shame to take a bite. Steve himself ate remarkably quickly. It seemed to me that the act of cooking and presenting the food were all the magic was to Steve, and he excelled at both.
And I took that as random CEO shade.
Yes, I took that.
Yeah,
yep.
okay. He who doesn't chew 32 times and doesn't savor his bite, doesn't care about his employees, and takes no pride in his work because you're just trying to get it over with.
Yeah, it was a little bit just he who does not savor
What also is good, because I think straight guy cooking style, a straight guy who's really wants to feed his buds and is a really good cook, he's doing a big braise, and I think he's serving it family side.
Family style is the word you're looking for.
Yes. Sorry, welcome to Olive Garden for your family. Okay, well, I am opening up a big fast casual barbecue place that serves family side.
But then when he describes how actually the idea for Chipotle happened. While working the line at Stars, which is this restaurant in San Francisco, Steve often visited burrito restaurants in the Mission District, where customers selected ingredients along a service line and the staff rolled them into 13-inch tortillas, making huge, inexpensive burritos. He began to envision combining this idea with what he had learned at Stars and making his own burrito restaurant. It was
You're inspired by learning what a burrito is? I know. I was faggot. Also, and I was okay, the colonialism here.
I know.
I was
not only the colonialism, but also just it's that. It's
that's been invented.
It's literally just you got a burrito at a restaurant. You're what if I did this?
Yeah, it's not he took it and
Uh-huh.
then he's no, hold on. Because
they weren't even saying
tortilla.
that he got the assembly line idea from somewhere else, he'd studied Henry Ford or whatever.
Right.
He was literally just he went to a restaurant where they were literally just doing that, and he was what if I did this? It's okay, light bulb, I guess.
Right, or not even I went to a Mexican place and I love burritos, and then I went to a salad place. Right, that was bing, bing, bing.
So he starts out being a property claims insurance adjuster. so he goes to I forget UCLA or something, and then he's in LA, and he's I had such an amazing time. I could always tell when people were lying, and it really gave me he was just weirdly having so much fun.
No, that's when people are sick. When you're just
sick.
You are meant to be the CEO because you're so excited by property claims.
By insurance fraud and people burning down their house randomly to collect the money. I mean, it's I guess that's funny.
That is fun. Because you think about insurance law and you're well, that's the most boring thing.
But then but then he was an insurance fraud Right. And then he was like a lawyer at a firm,
Yes.
like representing insurance fraud cases. And he'll just be like, my work as a personal injury fraud lawyer was so helpful when I became
revolutionary.
co-CEO of Chipotle because it helped me learn how to talk to people.
And his whole this whole book is about his philosophy of how he changed Chipotle,
Right.
which is pretty epic. You know, jokes aside,
there was like 8 restaurants and then they became like one of like the biggest chains
ever. And before Monty really came aboard, is you would work at Chipotle and you would never have a chance of rising up if you were like on the line.
Yeah.
They would hire like a manager from a Taco Bell or someone from like middle management somewhere else.
I feel like they were hiring very like Buttigieg managers from like McKinsey or whatever,
Yes.
some like sub McKinsey to
Or
come
like,
in.
I studied that 5% of sales if we choose this onion.
When he became CEO, he was very undercover boss. The whole book is very
Extremely
undercover boss.
undercover boss.
And he literally did undercover boss stuff and like went to restaurants and worked there. And he was like, and I noticed we had all of these incredible, mostly Hispanic women like working the line at all these restaurants who like took pride in their work and had no opportunity for advancement within the company. Right. And they were just not like the best they could do was like maybe become like a slightly higher like lineswoman, but like there was no opportunity for them to become like manager and
training
then like
manager,
regional
or, like,
director,
or area regional director, like, and it's always like, this book is always like, so I flew to Orlando to meet with, let's call him Greg, regional director, West Tampa training facilitator.
Well, the beginning of the book is like when he's at a Chipotle in London. And there's like Eastern European like manager woman.
He's there to possibly award her to become a restaurateur.
Which is like this doesn't mean what it means in the real world. It's like some like delineation that he made in this new like corporate speak ladder of Chipotle
where you're
names.
rising up from the line.
And when you're a restaurateur, you make like $90K a year and you get a company car, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. I'm like, I wonder what the company Chipotle car is.
I want to have that kind of ladder for advancement at our podcast.
I know, same. I'm
studio.
ready to get a company car, but I will put in the work.
No, I know. I have to put in the work and I'm
not just going to be some low performer, as he says.
No, and I want my employees to be encouraged to do their best and be excited to come to work with brave new ideas.
So he's at this London Chipotle, and again, it's a very undercover boss, and she doesn't know like he's there to promote her. Oh no, he tells her. Sorry, she needs to get more. My favorite word, vulnerable.
Yeah,
and she's like, "What?" She's an Eastern European. Yeah, actually, like if you show your team your fears,
yes, and your fear of failure. Like, it's going to make them a lot more invested.
And they will bond with you because they're not going to be like, oh, you're this cold boss who I just report to.
And I think that that's 100% true. Like, they become, invested in your success because they, like, want you to, like, succeed. And they realize that you actually have a real obstacle, that you're not just being this, like, cold, impervious, like, master who rules by fear.
And also, he says, a good team, they will want you to rise. They will see it as a team. If you are truly a team, when someone gets promoted, you're not like, oh, okay, well, there you go, getting promoted.
Yeah, I think that's true. If you like share your sadnesses with someone, they're like, they absorb it a little bit, right? You know what I mean? They take on that sadness a little bit and they're just like, well, I want you to be happy. I want you to be successful because it's going to make me feel more happy and successful.
Right.
Because now it's like your success is tied to mine. Like when you share the negative.
And also you can see that then you can rise.
Yeah. You know, he said another really funny thing about leadership that I thought was interesting. In the very beginning of the book, he's talking about when you're attacked, you need to be water and not ice. Because water is fluid. You need to be comfortable being criticized because they're not criticizing you.
Your life,
Your life, they have a problem. But as long as you know who you are, then that criticism can't hurt you.
If you're at the top and there's a mistake and it's yours, take the blame.
But I was reading this last week when I had been getting a lot of flack on the internet for a bombshell article that was published in the Guardian newspaper.
A British newspaper.
And I had been getting a lot of criticism from like random Scottish moms who like work in like trauma. And I read this line, water doesn't break. If you throw a rock in water, the rock sinks through and the water reforms just as it was. It needs nothing to protect it. Likewise, people who are truly strong make friends with the truth. They accept it and welcome it. They spend very little time defending themselves and become comfortable being challenged, questioned, or criticized. Because it's just like what you're seeking is the truth. Now, you may not have gotten to the truth yet, but you know that your pursuit of truth is what drives you, not your pursuit of adulation, not your pursuit of kudos and pats on the back, right? So whether or not you get the pats on the back or the criticism, you are still comfortable knowing that your journey is to truth.
And that's why I moved to Denver. The other thing that I think was so genius in here, where he talks about the actual thing that's going to make your employees happy, if you're encouraging their work and they're doing hard work and bonding over that hard work, instead of corporate fleeces, water bottles, catered lunches.
Yes and no. I will say that.
New offices. Hold on. Wait, okay. I do think I was thinking at first he was being a little bit of a hard ass. I've known some people who their company moves to this big, sexier office that's so expensive, and they think that's going to make everyone work better. It doesn't, because you know what? Now the company's broke, and now they're expecting everyone just to do so much better work because they're in this fancier, high-rent offices. But then actually the pressure is on, and they're not being rewarded, and they're like, well, now you're in this sexy open office with one espresso machine. Like, shouldn't you be doing amazing? But then, like, everyone is actually bitchy or intense because they're like, we need to make the sales to justify this huge open conference
That is
office.
100% true. And obviously, like, spend within your means as a company. Like, yes, expanding can help to some degree, but, like, you know, don't go way too big with the new office. But I will say that perks, not necessarily like Google level perks where you're just like, there's just like salmon on tap like every morning.
Well, because the salmon on tap, I think, is way more evil because that's
Yes,
not a perk. That's
it's
just
not a
making you stay at work
It's
till 9
making you stay
p.m.
work till 9 p.m. But I, as someone who has worked in an office before, like I remember one time I was working, we were on a project that was doing many long hours, and I was kind of staying late a lot of nights. And at my desk, like someone at the office, like one day just like put a little bag that had like $100 gift card to like a little like massage spa, and then a beautiful plant from like a local like nursery. And I was like, and it
Well,
was,
that seems really well thought out and
Yeah.
not just this order of tons of fleeces.
Yes. No, it was personal. It
Yeah.
wasn't just like fleeces for everyone. You're like, cool, this company doesn't care about me. It was just like, oh, and it says something like, we notice you're putting a lot of like
Right.
late nights in, just like, you know,
See, I feel
you're
like
really valued here or something.
Monty would be pro that because it's like encouraging someone who already is doing hard work and being like, take a massage, we care about you.
Celebrity Book Club.
Okay, I want to talk about a phrase that is going to reverberate through my brain forever, which is LoDo.
LoDo, yeah. Let's talk about LoDo because that on my notes
So,
is third.
So, okay. So he talks about basically like how it was fate that Chipotle was like based near his law firm in LoDo, which is lower downtown Denver. A couple years after heading up the litigation team at our downtown Denver office building, with the firm thriving, Corky started to look for a building to buy. In 2001, he found a beautiful historic building in the exciting lower downtown LoDo Denver neighborhood, which, as fate would have it, happened to be right across the street from the office building that Chipotle moved into 5 years later.
The way he's
Fate.
getting chills about LoDo. Okay, and then if I make continue here to his first day full time at Chipotle. It was sad to leave my law firm. For 10 years, I've been completely devoted to my associates, partners, and clients. But on March 5th, 2005, I became president and chief operating officer at Chipotle. A tear rolled down my cheek as I steered my car right into Chipotle's underground parking structure that morning. Instead of left into my law firm's garage, I reassured myself that leaving a wonderful past was necessary to be reborn into something new and mysterious. With this sentiment in mind, I felt the elevator gently lift my feet up into the historic brick and timber building of Chipotle's lower downtown Denver headquarters.
LoDo.
Not the timber. Also calling it a parking structure.
No, so insane to have a tear roll down your cheek as you enter a parking structure.
When I leave this podcast for a different Dumbo podcast, and it's just like right across the street, and I'm like, as I wheeled my city bike and looked at the Prologue offices, a tear rolled down my cheek.
As I turned right and went into the Water Street entrance.
So this is actually about me getting a job at Scotch and Soda. As I walked in, because I actually have to devote myself full time to being a regional manager of Scotch and Soda. I walked into the glass doors at Scotch and Soda, chills on my arms as I put on a military style blazer that I got 50% off.
And then I start working as a regional manager at Rod and Gun, which is the New Zealand-based menswear store across the street from Scotch and Soda.
So around the corner from our studio, Rod and Gun.
Tears obviously rolling down my cheek.
And
we
we both look at each other across from the glass, each with this tear rolling down our cheek, and we wave because now our new lives have begun.
Okay, so he is really spiritual, and I think that's beautiful.
He's not Buddha, but is Buddha.
He's always meeting another executive at just like the most TED Talk Buddha retreat.
You'll hear in the fun cold open, but before he shed a tear to the timber, he went with the German CEO of McDonald's who owned Chipotle, and they went on a beautiful men's business trip to Telluride.
Yeah.
And talked late into the night.
Because McDonald's owned Chipotle at first.
Yeah.
And then they it went public and they sold their
Right. It was
managing stake
independent,
in
then
it.
Steve.
But there was
I straight up with this book was like, I need to work at Chipotle.
So you can be on the restaurateur
track, yeah, and make $90,000 and get the company car.
Wait, this is the hierarchy. So you start out as crew, then you can become kitchen manager. Then you can graduate to service manager. Those are all hourly wage. Then it goes to salary. So the first salary is apprentice, where you're making $50K a year. And you're still apprentice is just a weird name, but you're still basically working the line.
What he did is he basically just gave new name positions, which also I think empower.
Branding,
it's branding. It empowers a worker.
Then you can go to general manager, where you're suddenly making $63K. Then you can go to restaurateur, where you're making $99K a year and you get the company car. I mean, that's pretty faboo. And so it's just if you're starting as a line worker, you're well, I have the ability to really move up, so I am going to put a lot of effort into these little pork things. Okay, can I ask you about your first experience with Chipotle?
Gather round, children.
Okay.
College, freshman year, because there wasn't Chipotle's.
Mine was college freshman year also. Okay.
Huge. Okay, so, I guess that makes sense because
2005.
He's just starting to work for Chipotle.
Yeah.
And so Chipotle's took our school ID card that you could put money on because there was
meal plan, as it's known in many communities.
Well, because my college didn't have a meal plan because it was a city campus. There wasn't a meal plan. It was just, but you could put money to use at the random.
So all right now. There's no meal plan on city campus.
Okay, so yeah, that's not how we work here. And I tried it for the first time, and I was like, "This is bomb." And then it was the branding because I would get so jealous because soon the $90 on my student ID ran out, and I would see other students just get Chipotle burritos every day for lunch. And I was like,
wait,
how are y'all...
How am I missing this club? Yeah.
Well, I was like, how are y'all affording this? Because I was like, the $12?
Because they're getting guac, too.
They're getting guac, the sour cream, the cheese, all of a sudden. And I would be so jealous, and it seems so luxurious to just go to Chipotle and grab this huge burrito.
Okay, so I also went my freshman year of college. Do you remember I had a crush on this guy who was an RA on a different floor of my dorm?
Yes. And he he was a TV writer?
Yeah, he was just into TV, and we would always watch TV together.
Okay.
Like, that was our thing. And just like my sweet mates were always calling him Yoko Ono because they're like, he's breaking up the band, dude. Because I was like, me and my street roommates were always just like smoking weed out of our bong.
Yeah. Elaine.
Elaine, dude. Yes, our bong was named Elaine.
And they were like, we're TV friends. And then you're like, I have another TV friend.
Right. And so I'd like go up to his room and watch. And then like one day he was just being just like, okay, like we're going to Chipotle. And I was like, what's Chipotle? And he was just like, oh, you don't know what Chipotle is? Oh, you're going to find out. So we like stomp over to St. Mark's.
Shit.
And he's being like so swaggy, and he's like, okay, like, yeah, I usually get the ball. Like, that's what I do. Like, I do a ball. Like, you can do a burrito or whatever you want. And there was an insane long line, which used to be the thing with Chipotle. Is there was
the lines
always
were
this
so long.
crazy line.
And no other place had lines like that.
And so like that.
And Monty talks about that.
And that created, obviously,
the
like
want.
the demand. Because you see the line, you're like, well, everyone wants it. It's the most fabulous place in the world. Of course I have to get in this line. Like, goddamn loser. And so I got it, and I was just like, and I guess I was kind of excited about the speed of the construction.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is new to me. Like, I actually hadn't seen assembly line burritos
A clean
before.
assembly
A
line
clean
burrito.
assembly line burrito.
Because they did do, I guess at Antaqueria, it's less being like you're going to 10 different people.
Yeah.
It's more someone is just making it.
Right. It was assembly line, and then they're like, and they're passing, and they're calling it out, and it's working.
Yeah.
And it seemed
Brown
very
rice, cilantro, kidney, pinto.
It was generous with the proportions, which I was excited by. It reminded me of like a fancy ski lodge, like
so
quality.
that horned you up.
Yeah, it reminded me of like the
mean,
cafeteria at Whistler. Do you know what I'm talking
I
about?
would like to note that it was giving, to me, I was seeing it as glamorous because I was like,
Yes.
these are huge portions and it's $12. And I was like, poor college student can't afford that.
Right.
And you were seeing it because it was glamorous ski lodge assembly.
Yeah. I mean, I think we both saw the glamour.
Huge glamour. It was also another huge thing for me was I'm a messy eater. And it was the first time I saw a bowl. And I was like...
The trough.
And I was like, wait, hold on. So I can like eat basically a burrito, but with people and not make a huge mess?
Yeah, that's back to the generosity that I think is at the heart of Monty and this book and the business and why it's been successful. Is because they're just like, we know you need a bowl.
We know you need this trough. And Chipotle is the type, it's kind of funny because he's like, oh, the gay guy who originated it, he ate so fast, where I think of Chipotle as
speed eating.
Like,
Yeah.
I get Chipotle now, rarely, but I get it when I'm so starving, I'm passing a Chipotle, and it's that thing where the first half of the bowl of the burrito I'm eating, I'm like eating so fast that I don't even notice I'm full till I'm literally physically feeling sick. And I'm cramping up.
I don't ever actually feel full from Chipotle. I think that the ingredients are fresh
Really?
enough that I don't feel like gross.
Oh, I always feel like stuffed to the gills. I guess I have a really small stomach.
Famously tiny stomach.
One of the tiniest stomachs in New York City. I do want to talk about a little more about Steve Ells.
Wait, okay. I wanted to talk about Steve Ells, so I just pulled the passage where I think this is another very thinly veiled reference to him being an insane faggot. That September, Steve told me he was leaving Chipotle in your hands. He moved from Denver, where Chipotle was headquartered, to begin a new life in New York City.
Specifically, the West Village?
Throughout 2006 and 2007, Steve often told me that I felt I should take over as CSO. He was spending a little time, and he seemed he was very much enjoying his life in New York and the freshness of his newfound freedom.
And maybe he split from a longtime partner.
Right. I once had board meeting Steve's home in the West Village. He suggested that it was time for him to step down. It's just like the West Village apartment, and he's just like this millionaire CEO. Like, he is so, like, 2007, he would have been on Manhunt.
Yes.
Or Adam for Adam. You remember Adam?
Oh,
for
I remember.
Adam.
I remember you and friend of the pod, Sam Buck-Rosing, logging on to manhunt.com, Adam for Adam.
Which were just these like
websites,
crazy Wild West personals where, you know, you just had it was a MySpace page for Grindr. And it was creepy, it was scary, it was weird, it was random, and you really didn't know what you were going over to. I think he was picking up young trade. I think he was picking up old trade.
I mean, yeah, if you're a gay guy in Denver, and this is
and
also...
let's just say it, Steve is a bottom.
When I looked at a picture of Steve, like,
No, I know.
It's like
his face is gayer than Kojo Kaharu. I
he's
mean,
giving kind of like Niles vibes. Like
Yeah.
it's bald, little glasses, thin,
big teeth,
lanky,
big gay teeth,
yeah.
chomping into those burritos, honey.
Also, '07, we flash back to LoDo. At that point, Denver is on the freaking rise.
Yeah.
I think that's the beginning of true, like, mountain biking, more condos being built, more
It
breweries,
becoming like
Red
the
Rocks,
house hunters, like
yeah.
capital of America.
The straight people are flying there.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I read it in a sex diary.
Okay. New York Magazine.
New York Magazine, and it was a sex diary about, and
Menver.
and they called, she goes, Denver, or as I call it, Menver, because the ratio was like 6-to-1 male female.
Jesus Christ.
I
If I was
think
a straight girl,
probably
I would
it's-
be there right now.
Yeah, I think it's equaled out, but it's straight girls, go to Denver.
Paradise.
Okay, you're wondering, all these New York City fuckboys
Yeah.
think they can get what they want? Go to Denver, join a mountain biking
No,
club,
I know.
and
It's-
thank me later.
It's like,
okay?
fuck West Elm Caleb. Like, let's talk to LoDo Liam, you know?
LoDo Liam. Okay, this is also really gay. So this is right before Chipotle goes public, and Monty and Steve are flying private, meeting with bankers. They're really torn. They're going to, 5-star restaurants, Michelin, and Monty's like, during this whole time, Steve and Jack and I got along very well. Our relationship felt so close. We laughed, joked, teased each other, and had a lot of fun. Even as we worked tirelessly to represent our company excellently to the prospective investors. On other occasions, I saw flashes of conflict. One day in early 2006, while we were flying, I showed Steve a new organizational chart I had devised for our leadership team. I had worked hard on it and was excited that this new direction would be great for our company. I asked Steve if he'd take a look. He paused his work on his New York Times crossword puzzle and said in a warm tone, sure. I find when people say sure, it's actually one of the bitchiest words in the English language.
Oh, yeah, I never mean it in a nice way.
Can you do this?
Sure. Sure.
But as Steve looked at it, his face dropped in what looked to me to be disappointment and frustration. My heart sank, and I felt butterflies in my stomach. This is great work, he said, and this is CEO work.
Sorry, so actually it wasn't an issue.
No. He was pissed because he was like, you're undermining me. I'm the CEO.
I don't know, but Steve wanted Monty to be CEO. Stephen was
While
like...
Steve's words were clearly complimentary, his tone was not. He sounded immensely frustrated and even offended. This left me deeply confused. Don't you want me to do my best work? I replied, and Monty's being such a, brewery golden retriever? Yes, but I'm the CEO. It makes me feel useless when you are the one having these ideas.
Oh,
it makes
right,
me
this was
wonder
so
why
funny.
the hell I'm even working here anymore.
This was so gay of him. But it's just like, you obviously need this straight guy to be a straight guy and do stuff.
Yeah, he's over there
Because
just
you're on
lapping
your
up
crossword.
and he's
It's-
making charts and he's just being so Betty Davis movie 1947 across.
No, he's literally being 1947 across, and it's just like, sorry, you need a straight guy. Like, everyone needs a straight guy to actually do something.
Yeah.
Like, we all know this faggot doesn't get anything done. First of all, this scene, the chapter that begins when he meets the Whole Foods CEO. In 2010, John Mackey, the founder and CEO of Whole Foods, asked if I'd meet him for breakfast at Boulder's Dushanbe Tea House.
That killed me, this location.
And it's just like, towards the end of our breakfast, John asked if I'd be willing to give a keynote speech at the upcoming Conscious Capitalism conference that he was hosting in Austin, Texas. It's just like, this is his whole life. It's just like on private...
Inspirational tea meetups.
Inspirational team meetups and taking private planes and making organizational charts and handing them to other CEOs on the way to different tea houses in Boise, Sun Valley, Austin.
And he's already so meditated and mountain biked, and it's 7 a.m. and he's done 8 different CrossFits and his biceps are bulging through the heather teen. He's like, I don't know what your schedule is looking like this spring, summer, but if you could come to the Conscious Capitalism conference, I would really appreciate it.
Okay, also when he reveals his nickname is Moose.
Moose.
Which, as you know from Rosa Blasi, her ex
means Big D.
Means Big D. And I do think that Monty Moran has
he's
nice
swanging.
big dad dick. I think it's 7 and thick.
I agree.
Maybe even 8. I mean, the confidence he exudes in this book the entire time, he's always just like, I had so much fun as a personal injury trial lawyer. Like,
you're
I had
like,
a lot
what?
of fun, like, firing people who were underperformers and just, like, promoting from within. Like, it's just kind of like, okay, you just enjoy everything.
Yeah, wonder also, I feel like, because
That's what it's like when you're packing.
throughout this, I was like, are you ever seeing your family? But I'm like, you seem like such a CEO
Well, this book,
that...
this book isn't about the family.
It's not about the family, but I was like, he feels very like straight CEO marriage in this way where he's like, sex is part of health.
Oh.
Like, he's very health class about it.
Yes, sex part of health, so it's important to have sex twice a day with your partner.
With your wife. I don't think they're having sex twice a day, but I do think they're having it 4 to 5 times a week.
Yeah, okay, true. At this point, 4 to 5 times a week. Yep.
Sometimes it's at 7 a.m. and sometimes it's at 9:45 p.m. Like, while they're both watching Rachel Maddow.
Yeah, I will say it's rarely at 3 p.m.
No, he's at a conference on a plane.
He's at a conference on a tea house on a plane.
Celebrity Book Club.
Segment Gauc.
What does she eat?
What does she wear?
How does she live?
What does he eat?
Not Chipotle.
Sometimes.
Well, I think this is his Chipotle order.
Test Kitchen.
This is the Chipotle order. Chicken. Definitely like the new pulled adobo chicken, whatever they're trying out.
Yep.
Brown rice, black beans, cilantro.
You don't think he's doing half?
Pico.
You don't think he's doing half veggies, half chicken?
Oh, yes.
Black beans.
Black beans. Definitely black beans.
And pico.
But there is pico.
No guac. No cheese.
No sour cream. We don't even need to say.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's so bison wrap. It's like he's so just like high protein.
And that's why I think he thrives at Chipotle, because you can do this half chicken, half bean bowl.
No, you can be as naughty as you want.
But
the thing about Chipotle, though, is even if you're being like not naughty, it's still like a 1,200 calorie bowl.
Yes, it's this huge bowl. That's why I'm saying
massive.
I'm always violently full. Another thing about him, though,
he's not vegan, right? I mean,
No.
he's being just
Poison.
like
Yeah, chicken.
black crusted salmon, like lots of juices. I mean, it's very just like brimming with health vibes.
Yes, except when he is talking about going to all these like 5-star like big executive dinners with Steve L. At one point he goes, yeah, it was so fun, but I was like, can I just have one night to be in my hotel room and eat a hot dog? Like, he is still
being
straight.
And Steve Ells is being such a faggot and just being like,
we're doing 5-course omakase with like JP Morgan.
I do think,
and it's much. I think he's very tea. Like, I don't really think he does coffee.
But I do think that when like Steve Ells is like ordering the 3rd bottle of wine, I think Monty is a little bit more like, you know what? I'll have like 1 shot of the most expensive Milagro, like tequila reposado that you have. That's like really rare, and then water.
Yes. And it's 1 glass of this reposado. It's like when we went to the St. Regis.
When did we go to the St. Regis? Oh, right. After our photo shoot for the New York Times at Bemelman's. Yeah.
By the way, have you got your tickets to our live show? June 24th at Music Hall of Williamsburg. Darling, it's going to be grand.
It's going to be incredible. It's going to be a New York moment to remember. People will be talking about it for ages.
And you can be so reposado all night long, but like 1 reposado, because you're this like health executive.
Have 1 incredible health executive reposado.
I think it is super health executive to love tequila because it's like less sugar than whiskey, but you can still be so like rocks glass with it.
Yeah.
Is it less sugar than whiskey?
The sugar content of tequila versus whiskey is not something that I really
There's something about
understand.
it that is just health executive, though.
But I agree.
Having a mezcal or a reposado.
Well, I feel like, there's also something about tequila. It's very like slutty girl, which is always like, tequila's actually the drunkest you can get per calorie.
And they're also like, what I love about tequila is not a downer. It actually has 15% agua vite in it. So it actually makes you stay up later.
I mean, that's what I've always said, and that's why I'm a lifelong tequila girl. Okay,
and there's something too like old school fat stockbroker about like having a bourbon, having the scotch.
Because he's
like
new, because he's LoDo.
New school.
He's
LoDo.
new school. Okay, in addition to him being new school LoDo, he's also very heathered, as we know, and it's just like great jeans.
Really good rag and bones.
Yeah,
And
rod and gun.
He's going to rod and gun, and I think he's going into...
I think he's also a little bit just like you open the closet and there's like 10 of the exact same tee hanging, 10 of the exact same pant hanging.
I was also going to say he's getting it in olive, charcoal, light ash,
slate,
maroon, burgundy, cabernet.
Okay.
And I think he also is like maybe another executive is telling him about like an eco t-shirt brand.
And he's being like, that's really awesome. I'm excited
What's
to
your employee structure?
to
I'll check it
consider
out.
investing, and I will take a small plane to Sun Valley to meet the CEO, even though they are headquartered in Milwaukee. Which is a fast-growing city in the Water District, but
the Water District. I feel like he is because he's actually more of a swimmer, I think, than a mountain biker. He has like highly expensive goggles, but also he defines just like mountain biking dad in the tightest.
He does everything. He's doing a few laps at the like 5-star hotel at Aspen after doing a few runs. Like
he's getting also one of those
6-miler in the morning.
Those bikes that have like huge wheels. You know what I'm talking about? Those like trail bikes.
Like a mountain bike?
Yeah. No, but they're a special kind of mountain bike that has like even huger wheels.
Okay, it's kind of a monster truck?
Yeah, monster truck of bikes.
I'm not sure what you're talking about. It may just be your glasses are so magnified that you think they're really huge.
Check out your local cyclist shop and you may know what I'm talking about.
Okay, how does he live? It's very like woods. Timber.
So there's a tale he tells about how like this certain type of bird was
this like woodpecker was like pecking away at his house.
And he said he quote unquote would run out in his underwear and yell at the bird. And the bird like wouldn't go away, and then his...
And you know he's in these like high-tech performance John Macden like boxer briefs.
Sweat release.
Okay, who are you in the book? Am I Steve Ells? I mean,
well...
I'm not doing crosswords, but I am playing Property Brothers mobile game.
Yeah, and I feel like if this like straight guy on the PJ was like, here's the corporate structure, like you should consider.
Okay, but I don't think I would be so threatened. I would be. Well, I love when people do work for me.
That's true, but it also said that was one moment, and the rest of the trip they were having so much fun. Right. I do feel like you might, after like years and years, what is not mentioned in this book. The rumor was that Steve Ells left because of the E. coli breakout at Chipotle.
Yeah, that's not mentioned at all. The fact that like they were pulling in $16 million each as co-CEOs when there was an E. coli outbreak.
And he does mention the E. coli outbreak, and he's like, actually, what we did is we tested all the ingredients and tested the pathogens, and there was no pathogens, which was actually unsettling.
You're like, yeah, same. I'm absolutely unsettled.
And it's kind of 2 pages at the end, and you're like, so. All of us over here in normal land thought, yes, Steve Ells wanted to move to the West Village, but also I feel like he was like, and I'm tapping out at E. coli.
I don't really need this.
I don't know. It's like, yes, obviously you're partially Steve Ells, but you're not completely. I think also like you're like Lisa at the Vegas conference, like giving this like amazing speech, and then Monty's like, hey, actually, Lisa, can I talk to you?
Yeah. You really inspired me.
I think I don't know if you remember this moment when he goes to like this law firm that he's being courted at, and the head of the law firm like greets him at the elevator and is like, hey, I'm Ted. Thank you so much for coming to the Christmas party. And he's like so shocked that like big dog Ted like remembered him.
Yeah, you love to greet.
I think I'm greeting. I'm knowing names. I'm making sure you feel warm at the Christmas party and know that I want you there.
Because LoDo can seem hostile at first.
Absolutely. Welcome.
Listen, I give this book...
Okay. Yeah, there were. I guess I was like, I get the main point of Chipotle, which is basically like hire from within.
Yeah.
And I felt we spent a lot of time on that.
I know. This book was a little thin. I mean, it wasn't thin. It's actually like it's long enough.
Right.
But just like there wasn't really that much even about like other stuff about Chipotle. Like, How,
Yeah.
like store, like interior store design, like international expansion. Like I didn't get enough of that.
Right,
in
because
there.
we're like, oh, London store, sure. And the best parts were like talking about like when he did become CEO and like the going public. And then like he told one story about this one Chipotle in Florida being messy and how there was like sour cream like on top of the walk-in. And he very like aggressively started cleaning it himself because like the team couldn't, which actually I find really antithetical to what he was saying before, because he just decided, oh, these were all low performers.
Well, but was he wrong? If there's sour cream on top of the fridge, like clearly no one is cleaning it.
But isn't he like, you need to talk to someone and like point out what they're doing wrong?
Okay, but that's like so egregious. You know what I mean? That is unforgivable.
Unacceptable.
God, I would love to see him. I feel like he would be so kitchen nightmares, like going to like literally any restaurant in New York City and just like seeing all the rats, the cockroaches.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm like 2, because there are some points where you're like, oh, you do have good business ideas, but like,
I don't know.
You need...
No, I'm giving this book one cup of salsa out of 5.
There's also nothing about his personal life.
I
And he
know.
talks about being vulnerable.
And yet he
And
is
he
not,
isn't.
he's
I'm like,
been
who
so-
are you?
Yeah, he has been so close up. No, I thank you. That's a really good point where ultimately I think this book is a living document of hypocrisy.
And fakeness and LoDo. Like, he tells one story about like Mrs. Merriweather telling him to stop being a class clown. And you're like, more, please?
Yeah, it's obviously like the most like humble brag memoir thing where
Right,
you're
he's
like, I would make jokes and everyone laughed, but ultimately I buckled down and got serious and became a personal injury fraud lawyer.
Okay, I guess what I'm saying is I'm pro hiring from within, but this book gets 0.5 tiny guac cups on the side
Yeah,
out of 5.
I agree.
Okay?
Thanks
Wow.
so much.
Thanks so
Lily,
much, Stephen,
for going on
joining
this
me.
business journey with me.
Would you mind joining me for a matcha tomorrow at 7 a.m.?
I will, and would you mind joining me for martinis at the Music Hall of Williamsburg on June 24th, 8 p.m. in New York City, baby.
Oh, I'll see you there.
It's going to be really fun. You'd be crazy to miss. Get your tickets now.
Psychotic to miss. Okay. And on Friday,
Don't miss the VIP lounge where we're going to be talking with fashion designer Mike Eckhouse.
Mike Eckhouse. Pretty fun stuff.
Best!
Celebrity Book Club is presented by Prologue Projects, which just went public. The show is produced by Benjamin Frisch, who is one of the top performing members of this company. He rose from the bottom. He's from Norway. He actually didn't even know any English until we put him in the podcast English program, with editorial support from Leon Nafik, Andrew Parsons, Arlene Arivello, and Madeline Kaplan. Sadly, I did have to fire them all this past week. Our production manager is Priscilla Verlin. Original theme song by Stephen Phillips Horst. Check him out at Red Rocks this summer. Artwork by Teddy Blanks at Chips NY. I bought a Teddy Blanks piece after I became co-executive, and I decided to treat myself. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at CBC The Pod. Look, we got to get those numbers in. Subscribe to your favorite podcast app. Leave us a review, and don't forget to tell your friends, employees, peers, colleagues about us. And don't forget to go to patreon.com for access to the VIP Lounge, our exclusive bonus podcast.